Most times when someone wins a national championship and comes here to talk to us, we say congratulations.
Yeah.
And then we don't see them again because they don't win more national championships. Austin O'Connor does things a little differently.
Yeah.
He comes in here and talks to us after he wins the national championship as a Tar Heel wrestler at 149 pounds as a sophomore. Now he's back again because he won it again, this time at 157 pounds. Austin, congratulations. It's great to have you back in here, a two-time national champion.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on again.
What have your last few days been like since you won the national title in Tulsa, Oklahoma this weekend?
They've been pretty hectic, to say the least. I mean, people just blowing up my phone, asking me to do camps, asking me to do podcasts, interviews, just anything really. And all that time adds up. You do 5-minute interviews and they add up to hours long.
Okay, so, I mean, 149, 157, that's like a weekend for me, Austin. I can go 8 pounds in a weekend. So what's the difference in the weight? Like when you're competing at 149, how is that different for you than competing at 157?
So competing at 149, I was focused a lot more on cutting weight. So I would balloon up to 15 to 18 pounds over kind of weekly. And then the whole week would be focused on my diet and getting my weight down. And this day I have to be this. When I was at 57, I was more focusing on getting stronger in the off season, being big enough for the weight. And honestly, I didn't really have to cut as much. I would get up heavier when I was going 49 than I did at 57. So it's kind of crazy.
Is that, I mean, that's just really foreign, I think, to a lot of people. What does that do for your body, and how hard is that for you to be maintained when you're like counting individual pounds so closely?
Yeah, a lot of it's water weight. So when I would pack on a bunch of weight when I was going 49, I'd probably say I'd put in like 2 gallons the night of weigh-ins or whatever. So a lot of the water would just stick to me and hold. So it wasn't too bad because I'm cutting off a lot of water weight, and I'd hold on to that till like kind of the very end and then just cut it all off at once, kind of just get one big weight cut in. And then at 57, it was just, my body didn't hold the water as well. So I wasn't retaining as much, and just made it a little bit easier to make the weight.
Is it harder to cut or to gain?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Now that I'm 157, I'd probably say it's harder to gain weight, because in the national tournament this year, people don't realize we're 3-day weigh-in, so we're cutting weight after the session ends. As soon as the session ends, we're running, we're trying to get back down to weight. This was the first year, I think, that I went to the national tournament, and after the session ended, I was about a pound underweight. I didn't have to cut anything, so yeah.
When you're actually on the mat, when you're competing, does that weight difference, I mean, do you feel it? Does it feel any different?
No, you wrestle guys in the room. I compete with the 65-pounders, the 74-pounders, so when I'm wrestling someone my own weight, they can't put on that much weight in a day to where it's going to be a significant difference.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's not bad.
You were talking before we went on about just the feeling of walking out there in Tulsa center mat being different from when you did it last time, when things were still kind of COVID-y and just things were weird.
Yeah.
What does it feel like to walk out there in front of a full arena? Everybody's got their eyes on you. Jones and I are probably not going to ever have that feeling, so tell us what that's like to be able to experience that.
Yeah, it's an amazing experience. Kind of walking out there my freshman year, being the first time in the tournament, you step on the mat and you're just shell-shocked. You're just in this new environment with people screaming the entire time, and you have the greatest wrestlers in the country competing at the same time. If anything happens, the crowd's going crazy, and it's like the stadium's just shaking. So it's a different feeling, and I definitely had to get adjusted to that from my freshman to senior year. My 2021 season when I won it, it wasn't as big of a stadium with COVID and not having as much fans. So I knew this year was even going to be a little bit different, just having that whole arena packed. And it kind of does like get to you a little bit that you're in this huge match, biggest match of your life. But being there before, I mean, I just accepted it and welcomed it and was ready to go.
Okay, now I think I have this right. Between your 2 championships, you battled some injuries. Is that correct? What was that like for you, trying to fight through that when you had been at a really high level and then we're trying to fight through some difficult things?
Yeah, so following season I came back, and like we talked about, I went up in weight, so that was a little bit of adjustment, and it started getting to the end of the season. I was feeling amazing. Had one of the best matches of my career down at 𝗜𝘀𝗶𝗍𝗄 and whooped up on a ranked guy, I think in the top 10. and I was feeling great. I was on top of the world, and I was ready to win a second national title that year. And that week at practice, I come back, and I'm wrestling one of the coaches, and stuck my leg out, and he just crashed down on it the wrong way and tore my ACL. And then wrestling on that, obviously, I made it a whole lot worse. So it was a long journey back from tearing my ACL, but I just knew I was the best guy in the country. I mean, if I'm placing 8th on one leg, then I knew I was going to come back as a national champion next year.
Winning a national championship is a pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
Once you do that once, how do you mentally maintain the desire to want to do that again when you've already done it, and compound that with the fact that now everybody really, really wants to beat you?
Yeah, you actually come back with more sense of urgency that you want to get it done again, because when you get that feeling that you've never had before of how special that moment is, I mean, there's nothing compared to it, and like you're willing to do anything to make that experience happen again. And I was willing to make sacrifices and just do whatever I can to be back on top of the podium and being able to share that moment with friends, family, coaches, everybody again.
All right, I mean, you can tell here just us talking to Austin, pretty soft-spoken, quiet guy, but anytime I've seen you on the mat, that is not the Austin that I see out there. You're a pretty big personality and talking to the crowd, and like, is there a flip that switches, or is that just a different guy that's out there on the mat?
I mean, like I just talked about, it's just all of the emotions. I've been wrestling for 20 years, so it's all the emotions coming to the surface all at once after winning a big match like that. And you get to share that experience with the closest people to you. And yeah, so after I won it, it's just kind of just letting everything go and just not thinking about anything in the moment.
How about just in general, though? Like just in a regular, I don't know, ACC dual meet on a Friday night. Like, is that a different guy than the one that's sitting here talking to us right now?
No, it's the same guy. I mean, usually I don't even really like to celebrate at all. Kind of the things that hurt me the most is I lose a big match and the kid's standing over me celebrating. So I usually try to be respectful to my opponents, but I think everybody knows at that level you're in the biggest match of your life that's acceptable to celebrate. And then, I mean, I'm a little salty, and when people celebrate against me, I kind of got to give it back to them. So, yeah. Okay,
speaking of being in the moment, did you see the video of the Iowa wrestler's mom who snapped her glasses when her son lost?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to get your thoughts on that video, and who's the most intense kind of in your circle when you're wrestling? Who would be most likely to snap their glasses?
That's a tough question. My thoughts on the moment, though, is that, I mean, they kind of talked about it, and it is almost like experiencing death. The kid was going for his 4th title, and how special that moment is. I couldn't imagine doing it 4 times. I mean, this kid's trained his whole life. He got to college. He won it as a freshman, sophomore, junior. You think deal's almost sealed, and he was going to do it again. And, I mean, probably one of the biggest upsets of NCAA history occurred Saturday. So it was a tough time, and I could kind of understand it. I think they should have focused more on the family, that the kid that just won it. Shout out to Matt Ramos. He's a Lockport boy, so we're from the same town. But yeah, just all the emotion goes into it. Your family shares it too, and it's just a tough spot to be in, and you got to feel for the family.
Just the second ever multiple-time national champion in Carolina wrestling history. That's Austin O'Connor joining us today. Austin, congratulations again. Thanks so much for your time, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you guys, and thanks for having me on.